The Happy Days cast was chock full of unforgettable actors who played unforgettable characters. Happy Days was a beloved sitcom set in the 1950s, which aired in January of 1974. It finished after 11 seasons in September of 1984. Most of the show's incredible success can be attributed to its wonderfully talented ensemble cast members, who worked tirelessly together to create such a memorable show. Of course, all these wonderful actors had to get their experience from somewhere. From Ron Howard to Henry Winkler, we're going to take a look at the amazing actors behind the scenes of this dear sitcom. And we'll also take a look at how they got their start in show business. Make sure you stick around until the very end of this video, where we'll talk about the past work of one renowned comedic actor who worked with the Happy Days cast. Factsverse presents The Surprising Origins of the Happy Days cast. Before we get started, be sure to leave a like on the video to show us you're a fan of Happy Days. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Factsverse and click that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all our videos. Ron Howard. The main character of the first 7 seasons of Happy Days was teenager Richie Cunningham, played by Ron Howard when he was just 18 years old. Casting young actors is no easy feat, as many can be inexperienced. Ron Howard, however, was anything but inexperienced. He got his start in acting when he was just 5 years old, where he acted in the film The Journey. From there, Howard only became more successful. A year later, in 1960, he was cast to play the adorable character Opie in The Andy Griffith Show. He also played the role of Winthrop in the 1962 film The Music Man. With his extensive background as an actor, it's no wonder Howard landed the starring role in Happy Days. He remained the protagonist of the sitcom for 7 whole seasons before he left the show to pursue a career in directing. His character, Richie, was written out as joining the U.S. Army, although he did appear as a guest star in a few episodes towards the end of the show. From there, he went on to direct 25 stunning films, including A Beautiful Mind and Cinderella Man. His career is far from over, however, and he intends to direct even more films. Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler played the character Fonzie, and while he eventually became a regular on the show, Winkler started out playing Fonzie as a background character only. This isn't surprising, however, considering Winkler didn't have a lot of acting experience to begin with. He quickly picked it up, however, as Fonzie is now one of the most well-known characters on the show. Although he was nominated for 3 Emmy Awards and won 2 Golden Globe Awards, Winkler's acting career has humble origins. He started out working in live theatrical productions and television advertisements. His first memorable role was in a single episode of The Mary Tyler Moore Show, in the episode The Dinner Party, where he arrived in a handsome suit. This character was a far cry from Fonzie, however, who preferred to wear a typical greaser leather jacket. The breakout character of Fonzie was so well loved that Winkler stayed on the show for all 11 seasons. He was one of only 2 actors who appeared in every episode of the show. After Happy Days was over, Winkler would go on to act in many other films and TV shows, including Arrested Development and Holes. Winkler didn't just limit himself to acting, however. Much like Ron Howard, he also dabbled in directing for a little while. Don Most. Don Most's first appearance on the screen went uncredited, as his role was so minor. The finale of the first season of MASH, entitled Showtime, has a single scene where Father Mulcahy prays over a dying soldier. This poor soldier was played by Don Most in '73, just a year before Happy Days first aired. In Happy Days, Don Most played the recurring character Ralph Malph in the first season, but his impressive performance was enough to convert the character into a lead role from seasons 2 through 7. Even though Most did an excellent job playing the fun character of Ralph, his acting career didn't exactly take off. He worked as a voice actor for children's cartoon shows and appeared in a few films. Most also guest starred in several TV show episodes, including Family Guy and Glee. Still, Most felt his calling lay elsewhere. He released a pop album in 1976, but sales were abysmal. Still, Don Most didn't feel like giving up on his music career, and in 2016, he released a 50s swing-style Christmas album. He then went on tour in 2017 with a swing band. While this may seem like an odd career change, Most seems happy with what he chooses to do. Leave a like on this video to support Don Most and his swing dreams. Anson Williams. Anson Williams' television debut was in a 1971 episode of Owen Marshall, Counselor at Law, entitled Eulogy for a Wide Receiver. While this may not seem like a big deal at first, you may change your mind when you learn that this episode was directed by none other than Steven Spielberg himself. In this episode, Spielberg chose Anson Williams to play a wide receiver, who collapses in the locker room after football practice and dies. Although it was a short moment of glory for Williams, he certainly put his heart into that collapse. In 1974, he was then cast to play the role of Potsy Weber, a member of a band with Richie and Ralph. He played the role of Potsy for all 11 seasons of Happy Days. After the season finale of Happy Days, Anson Williams decided to pursue a career in directing, and he was immensely good at it. Among many other TV shows, Williams directed episodes of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Star Trek, and The Secret Life of the American Teenager. Acting and directing weren't his only callings, however. He also spent some time as a businessman. He founded a chain restaurant known as Big Al's, and although it went defunct, that didn't stop him from also launching a cosmetics company. Marion Ross. Marion Ross played the role of Marion Cunningham, the mother of Richie and the husband of Howard Cunningham. She was a main character in all 11 seasons of Happy Days, but she was far from new to the business when she earned the role. She first debuted on screen in 1953 as the character Patty in Forever Female, a romantic comedy with Pat Crowley. Funnily enough, in the opening credits, Paramount Studios spelled her name Marion Ross with an A instead of an O. This is because Marion's name was originally spelled with an A, but at the tender age of 13, she already had her heart set on becoming an actress. She changed the spelling to Marion, thinking it would look more appealing on movie marquees. After her role in Forever Female, Marion had no shortage of work in her career. She found roles in a variety of films, including Sabrina, Teacher's Pet, and Lust for Life. Marion also acted in a variety of roles for TV series, one of which included the character Ginny Thorpe in The Lone Ranger. After her success in Happy Days, she went on to perform in many more films and TV roles until her eventual retirement in 2018. Tom Bosley. While Marion Ross played Richie's mother, Marion Cunningham, Tom Bosley played his father, Howard Cunningham. His origins are far less well known than Marion Ross, but everyone has to start somewhere, right? His first ever role was in a made-for-TV production of Alice in Wonderland in 1955. He sported clown makeup and even wore a fake nose while playing the Knave of Hearts. However, he would go on to play more renowned characters, the most notable of which is probably the titular character in the 1959 Broadway musical, Fiorello. Tom Bosley won a Tony Award for his incredible performance. He also appeared in a wide variety of TV shows before finally winning the role of Howard Cunningham in Happy Days. In Happy Days, Tom Bosley was one of 2 actors who appeared in every single episode. During and after the show, he continued to act in other films and TV shows, including Wicked Stepmother and Charlie and Me. He pursued his love of acting right up until his tragic death in 2010 at the age of 83. His final films were The Backup Plan and Santa Buddies. Erin Moran. Erin Moran played Richie Cunningham's younger sister, Joni Cunningham, when she was just 13 years old. Her career as an actress started even earlier, however, when she was only 5. In 1965, she acted in a First Federal Bank TV commercial. After that, Erin acted as the character Jenny Jones in the TV series Daktari from 1966 to 69. Moran also appeared as the character Lori in the 1968 comedy How Sweet It Is. No matter how small the role was, Erin Moran was talented enough to bring life to her character. Once she was cast as Joni, Erin's talent only grew. She was even given her own spin-off series in 1982, entitled Joni Loves Chachi. She also appeared in numerous other TV shows, including Murder, She Wrote, The Love Boat, and Diagnosis Murder. Later in life, however, her appearances on TV and in film slowly dwindled, and Erin Moran reportedly fell into a depression. Her final role was as herself in the TV show Celebrity Ghost Stories. In 2017, she died from throat cancer at the age of 56. Scott Baio. Scott Baio played the lovable role of Chachi, a character who first appeared in Season 5 and continued to appear until the end of the show. His first role, however, was in the 1976 gangster musical Bugsy Malone, where he played the main character and acted alongside Jodie Foster. He would later work with Jodie Foster again in the 1980 film Foxes. He also played other roles while acting on Happy Days, and he was even nominated for 2 Emmy Awards for the films Stoned and All the Kids Do It. Scott Baio appeared in the spin-off series of Happy Days, Joni Loves Chachi. He's acted in a total of 13 films and 43 different TV shows. He also worked as a director from 1987 to 98. His most recent work as an actor was in the Nickelodeon show See Dad Run, which he starred in from 2012 to 2015. He also acted in the TV show Diagnosis Murder, where another Happy Days actor, Erin Moran, also appeared. Noriyuki Pat Morita. Pat Morita played the role of Matsuo Arnold Takahashi as the recurring character throughout Seasons 3 and 10, and he also appeared as a guest actor in episodes during Seasons 4 and 11. Though Pat Morita's birth name is Noriyuki, he began going by Pat in high school, when he started stand-up comedy. Pat's first role as an actor, however, was in a 1964 Japanese drama entitled Car Thieves. After that, he debuted in America in Thoroughly Modern Millie. He also appeared in The Shakiest Gun in the West, MASH, and many other films and TV shows, before finally being cast as Arnold in Happy Days. After Happy Days, Pat Morita played the famous Mr. Miyagi in the 1984 film Karate Kid. He also appeared in the Karate Kid sequels in 1986, 89, and 94. He also voice acted for the role of the Emperor in the Disney film Mulan, as well as in its sequel, Mulan 2. Robin Williams. Robin Williams may have only appeared in 2 episodes of Happy Days, but his role remains one of the most memorable in the entire series. He played the alien Mork, and his hilarious cry of "Nanu Nanu" was known throughout the country. Most of his acting as Mork was completely improvised, and he impressed directors with his lightning-speed wit. His role was popular enough to earn him an entire spin-off series entitled Mork and Mindy. While Robin Williams had appeared in a couple films before his role as Mork, Happy Days is what launched his success as a stunning actor and comedian. He continued to perform in films such as Dead Poets Society, Good Will Hunting, and countless others. Without his role as Mork, we may never have gotten to see this wonderful actor rise to fame. Every famous actor has to start somewhere, and while some of the actors on this list had plenty of experience before their roles on Happy Days, others started their careers nearly anew. Marion Ross and Tom Bosley. Marion Ross, who played the mother, Marion Cunningham, revealed on the Today Show in 2018 that she didn't get along with her co-star Tom Bosley. If you think that's not awkward enough, Bosley portrayed her on-screen husband Howard, making their falling out especially uncomfortable for the two stars. Marion has previously stated her belief that Bosley had another actor in mind for the part, which fueled his dislike towards his on-screen wife. A visit to Fox's daytime show Good Day New York saw their relationship take a particularly sour note. According to Marion, Tom made it clear how much he disliked his co-star during their guest spot on the show. The actor called her various offensive names backstage before proceeding to undermine her around the program's production crew. Whenever Marion would attempt a conversation with these workers, Tom would swear and tell her nobody cared. Despite these backstage tensions, the pair eventually became firm friends. Tom later apologized for his disappointing behavior in a private event honoring Happy Days' Ron Howard for his achievements. In her memoirs, Marion recalls how the actor approached her and told her he did care about her opinions. The move touched Marion, who had just delivered a speech about Tom to her peers. Her on-screen husband clearly had a change of heart, and luckily he changed his attitude towards Marion Ross. Tom Bosley passed away in 2010 at age 83. Succumbing to lung cancer, Bosley's passing is one of several deaths from the Happy Days cast. His co-stars spoke fondly of Tom after the news was announced, and recalled memories of working with him. Even Marion Ross said they made the perfect couple, confirming the pair's clear fondness for one another despite their friendship's more shaky beginnings. Scott Baio and Don Most. In 2020, a more recent feud emerged between the Happy Days cast after actors Henry Winkler and Ron Howard, who played Fonzie and Richie, confirmed plans for a reunion to raise money for Wisconsin Democrats. This caused tensions to flare with Scott Baio, known for playing Chachi, because he disagreed strongly with the political nature of the reunion special. Baio is a strong Trump supporter and Republican, which meant he was opposed to fundraising for the Democratic Party. He believed Ron Howard was conspiring to use a classic show like Happy Days to promote an anti-American socialist. John Stamos offered to portray the role of Chachi in his absence, which Baio took further offense to. Don Most, known for his role as Ralph, was not impressed with Scott's action. Speaking to Fox News, the actor felt his co-star's actions were out of line and showed no consideration for his fellow cast members' views. Don also mentioned he used to play golf with Scott Baio, but claimed that due to the actor's comments, he likely won't be doing so again. Despite the controversy, the Happy Days reunion eventually made it to air. The one-off special was made available to stream online on Sunday, October 25th via the Wisdem's website. As expected, Scott Baio failed to appear, so the reunion was missing one key cast member. When asked if he would be appearing during the online reunion, Scott told Fox News he wouldn't be appearing as he, quote, didn't believe in socialism and Marxists, and commented how he found the event a little bizarre. He also aired his own theory that John Stamos, who had been confirmed for the reunion show, show, had always wanted to fulfill Baio's role as Chachi. The event featured a number of surprise celebrity guests, including Josh Gad and Yara Shahidi, who filled in as Happy Days characters Howard and Joni, respectively. The reunion involved the cast reuniting over Zoom and doing a table read of a few episodes from the third season. Joined by series writer Lowell Gantz, as well as Howard's daughter Paige, fans were overjoyed to see the cast together again. Scott Baio's absence remained unnoticed, with many viewers praising John Stamos as his replacement. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Facts First for more. And stick around for more about Happy Days feuds. Ron Howard and Henry Winkler. Ron Howard and Henry Winkler currently maintain a great friendship, but their initial relationship was much more tense. When Winkler was introduced in the show's 5th season, he became an instant hit. This left Ron Howard seething with jealousy, who up to this point had been seen as the audience favorite. The 5th season opened with a 3-part story entitled Hollywood, which saw Fonzie hit the big time in America's movie capital. Fonzie's journey actually mimics Henry Winkler's rise to fame, who, upon debuting in Happy Days, became a major star overnight. Commenting in the Intelligencer Journal in 1977, Howard admitted he was taken aback by his co-star's sudden popularity. He felt that Henry's success saw the writer centering many of the show's narratives around Fonzie, whereas previously, Howard reckoned that 75% of the stories had been centered around his character, Richie. It was a stark change for Ron Howard, who suddenly found himself no longer the star of his own show. Appearing on the BBC's Graham Norton show, Howard claimed he was disrespected by Happy Days network execs. He slammed the execs for poor interaction, and he spoke candidly about how the press referred to him as a second-class citizen. Ron's point to the press and the executives was that Richie was supposed to be the lead, and Henry Winkler as Fonzie had usurped him. But despite Howard's reservations, the actor did admit it was exciting to see the audience's reaction towards Fonzie. He praised Henry Winkler's performance to Graham Norton, which he called remarkable. He also credited his experience co-starring with Winkler as the life event that pushed him to chase his dream of becoming a director. Seeing firsthand how fickle the audience can be in regards to their favorite TV stars, Howard realized how being an actor was a rather insecure profession. Thanks to the actor's professional attitude, the rivalry between the two stars didn't leave much of an impact behind the scenes. Henry Winkler commented to the Press Telegram he felt the studio atmosphere was very relaxing and that he liked his co-workers. With Ron Howard's unhappiness not carrying into the show's production, the pair were able to maintain an air of professionalism. Today, they consider themselves friends, with the history between them all but evaporated over the years. Although Ron Howard left Happy Days before its final episode in 1984, he remained in contact with his co-star for many years since his final appearance. Most recently, Henry Winkler has been known to attend Ron's birthday parties, proving the animosity between them is over. In 2019, Henry fondly discussed his friendship with Ron on Fox News, where he said the star gave him advice on dealing with his newfound fame on the set of Happy Days. Ron Howard's impressive past. Many beginning stars found fame in Happy Days. For example, Henry Winkler, who played the Fonz, was virtually unknown as an actor until he came into the role. Ron Howard, however, had already made a name for himself long before Happy Days. He was born March 1, 1954, to Gene Spiegel and Rance Howard. Both of his parents worked as actors, and his father also worked as a writer and a director. Due to the influence of his parents, Howard began acting very young. His first credited role in a film was in 1959 when he appeared in the movie The Journey. His first recognizable role was in an episode of The Twilight Zone, but he would truly find fame as the beloved character Opie Taylor in the classic Andy Griffith Show. After that, people had high expectations for young Ron Howard. Why Ron Howard joined Happy Days. When beginning life as a child actor, it might seem natural to continue acting for the rest of your life. However, not everybody chooses this path. A lot of child actors realize the pressures of film and TV at a young age and choose to live a life out of the limelight. Ron Howard's reason for choosing to accept the lead role of Richie Cunningham in Happy Days was a bit more surprising. At the time, the bloody Vietnam War was still raging, and the draft had many young men in shambles, hoping they wouldn't be forced to enter. At the time, Howard was attending the University of Southern California. He then heard that if a person was drafted, so long as they were employed at a place with at least 30 other people, they could be deferred. Believe it or not, Howard's main reason for joining Happy Days was so that, should his number come up, he would have a valid reason to not fight in the war. It was a clever solution, and it ended up being one of the most memorable parts of Howard's career. In the end, his number didn't actually end up being pulled. But Howard at least managed to have a lot of fun acting and boost his career and experience at the same time. A bitter rivalry. While Ron Howard was ultimately grateful he ended up playing the leading role in Happy Days, there were times he had his regrets. For example, he wasn't always pleased with how silly the show got, and he preferred a slightly more serious tone. Even worse, however, was his bitter rivalry with Henry Winkler. Being cast as the lead in the show, Howard was used to getting all the praise and attention. In Season 3, however, all that changed. As the cool biker character, Fonzie, grew popular, Howard found his role became smaller and smaller. Not only were all the girls in the audience suddenly swooning over Fonzie, Howard even found a lot of his lines were being cut. Howard's co-star, Marion Ross, mentioned in an interview that Howard once stated gloomily that the show was, quote, all about the Fonz. At times, he even grew so upset he seriously considered quitting. In the end, however, he was able to put aside his rivalry with Fonzie's actor, Henry Winkler, and the two remain close friends. They've even collaborated in the industry from time to time. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you stick around. And subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. And stick around because we're going to give you the exact reason why Ron Howard finally called it quits and left the cast of Happy Days. He owes a lot of his success to his parents. As we mentioned earlier, Ron was born to two actors. They helped him get involved in acting when he was just 2 years old. However, he doesn't just owe his parents his career because they helped him get into the industry in the first place. They were also incredibly supportive figures throughout his life and helped him learn how to retain a healthy work-life balance. It's easy for actors to get sucked into the entertainment industry and don't really know how to have a life outside of acting. Howard, however, was taught by his parents at a young age how to balance his life as an actor with his life outside of work. They helped him learn how to develop healthy and stable relationships, and also taught him he should never be working as an actor if he doesn't enjoy what he's doing. They never pressured him into acting and always made sure he had the choice to opt out if he wanted. The real reason Ron Howard left Happy Days. Many times Howard felt like quitting because he felt upstaged by Henry Winkler. However, when Howard did end up leaving the show after Season 7, it was for a surprisingly different reason. While Howard's career as an actor had been going quite well up until then, a slightly different childhood dream was calling him. From a young age, he had hoped to become a director like his father. After years working as an actor, he had gained all the experience he needed to launch that career. After Season 7, Howard said a sad goodbye to his fellow cast members and went out into the world to do even bigger and better things. He's now revered as an Oscar-winning director, creating films such as A Beautiful Mind, Apollo 13, and Cinderella Man. Even at 66, Ron Howard is still making great strides in his career. In 2018, he directed the hit film Solo, A Star Wars Story. In 2020, he directed and produced the Netflix drama film Hillbilly Elegy. While we don't know what other films he plans to direct, we're all expecting great things. Happy Days almost had a different name. When Gary Marshall first developed the series, he wanted to call it Cool. He figured that since the characters on the show were cool, the name was perfect. Like on many shows, Gary brought in a focus group. The focus group loved everything but the name of the show. They said that the title Cool wasn't working for them. In Gary's book, Wake Me When It's Funny, Gary said that the test audience thought that Cool would be about Eskimos who smoked. Gary went back to the drawing board and he came up with the name Happy Days. It's a good thing he did because it's hard to imagine the show being called Cool. Plenty of spin-offs. Happy Days was such a huge success that plenty of spin-offs were created. A few of the most successful were Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, and Joni Loves Chachi. Out of the Blue and Blansky's Beauties were spin-offs of characters who had made their introduction on Happy Days. The problem with Out of the Blue was that due to scheduling with the network, Out of the Blue aired before the main character premiered on Happy Days. It was a week after the show premiered that the character appeared on the Happy Days episode, Chachi Sells His Soul. The spin-offs were so popular that there were animated spin-offs created. The Fonz and the Happy Days gang was popular. There was also Laverne and Shirley in the Army, which was later named Laverne and Shirley with special guest star The Fonz. There was also a cartoon version of Mork and Mindy. Each of the animated shows were based around the characters when they first appeared on Happy Days. There was one spin-off that didn't take off. Suzi Quatro was a musician and an actress, and she played Leather Tuscadero on Happy Days. She was offered a spin-off revolving around her Happy Days character, but she turned it down. Anson Williams sang. To be allowed to use popular 50s songs was very expensive. The show didn't really have the budget to get the rights to use many songs, so they came up with a plan B. Rather than using real songs in music groups, they had Anson Williams, aka Potsy, sing some of the songs that played in the jukebox at Arnold's. Most fans had no idea that it was him singing, and it saved a lot of money in production costs. Fonzie's leather jacket. When Fonzie made his first appearance on Happy Days, he wore a windbreaker rather than his signature leather jacket. The execs at ABC thought that if he wore a leather jacket, it would make him look like a hoodlum. Gary Marshall knew that the windbreaker wasn't working, so he spoke to the execs. He asked that Fonzie be allowed to wear the leather jacket in scenes with his motorcycle because the leather was safer on a bike. They agreed, so Gary made sure that all of Fonzie's scenes took place beside his motorcycle. Later, when Fonzie became incredibly popular, the ABC execs allowed him to wear his leather jacket with or without the motorcycle. The windbreaker went back to the wardrobe, where it remained for the rest of the series. Mickey Dolenz was almost Arthur Fonzarelli. Before Henry Winkler landed the role of Arthur Fonzarelli, Mickey Dolenz was considered. Mickey was one of the Monkees, and he was the frontrunner. When Mickey spoke with the Washington Post in 2013, he said that he remembered the audition but didn't remember seeing Henry Winkler there. Henry says he remembered the audition and remembered seeing Mickey there. As soon as he saw Mickey, Henry was sure he wouldn't get the part. Fortunately, he did, because it's impossible to imagine anyone other than Henry Winkler playing Arthur Fonzarelli, a.k.a. the Fonz. Happy Days the Musical. In 2007, Happy Days the Musical opened in Burbank, California. The show was such a hit that later it ran in New Jersey and then Connecticut. It was such a hit that the show became a touring production. In 2010, the show stopped touring around the U.S. In 2014, they began touring in the U.K. Robin Williams' incredible audition. Robin Williams auditioned for the role of Mork, an alien who abducts Richie. The episode took place in 1978, and the title of the episode was My Favorite Orkin. During his audition, the show's producer told Robin to sit down. Robin turned to face the chair and then sat on his head instead of his behind. When he did this, he got the role immediately. Robin played Mork so well that spin-off Mork and Mindy was created. This is what helped Robin's career skyrocket. The 2011 lawsuit. In 2011, cast members Anson Williams, Donnie Most, Aaron Moran, Marion Ross, and Tom Bosley's widow got together and filed a lawsuit against CBS and Paramount Pictures, which is the network that owns Happy Days. They filed the lawsuit because they weren't paid merchandising revenues for the show. They were particularly upset about not being paid for the Happy Days themed slot machines. The group asked for $10 million in the lawsuit. According to the New York Post, each actor agreed to a settlement, and they were awarded $65,000. It wasn't the $10 million they wanted, but all were reported to have been satisfied with the settlement. Fonzie's motorcycle goes to auction. On Happy Days, Fonzie rode a 1949 Triumph Trophy TR5 motorcycle. In 2011, it went up for auction as part of Bonham's Classic California collection. The bike was expected to sell for between $60,000 and $80,000, even though it wasn't in working condition. Everyone was shocked that the bike never sold. It's still listed on the Bonham's website. If you want to buy it, you might be able to. You should just expect to spend some good money. The 20s and 30s. When Paramount first approached Gary Marshall to write a show for them, they wanted it to be set in the 20s or 30s. Gary told the execs that he would be better suited to write a show based in the 50s and 60s, since that's when he grew up. The initial pilot that he wrote wasn't picked up, but when he pitched Happy Days, they loved it. The rest is history. Ron Howard almost passed on the role of Richie Cunningham. When Ron Howard was first offered the role of Richie Cunningham, he initially turned it down. He told Gary Marshall he didn't want to play a teenager for the rest of his life. Gary promised that during the show's run, all the boys would graduate from high school. This was enough to convince Ron, and he accepted the role. The external shot of the house is located in Los Angeles. Happy Days was set in Milwaukee, but the house used for the exterior shots was in Los Angeles. The address is 565 North Cahuenga Boulevard, LA, California. If you're in the Los Angeles area, you should take a drive by the house. It looks the same as if it has been frozen in time. Henry Winkler was terrified of motorcycles. Henry Winkler's character loved his motorcycle. In real life, Henry was terrified of them. In the scenes where Fonzie is riding his bike, Henry isn't actually driving it. He would sit on the stationary bike that was attached to a moving truck. Henry never once actually rode the motorcycle. Henry Winkler couldn't read his audition script. Henry was diagnosed with dyslexia when he was 31 years old. When he read for the role of Fonzie, he couldn't read the script. During the audition, he made up his own lines. Henry told the producers that he did it so they could see the essence of the character. He promised to read his lines as written in the future, and he got the part.
Anson Williams. Born September 25, 1949, Williams was a rising star in Hollywood long before he landed the role of Patsy Weber on Happy Days. Williams grew up in Southern California and attended Burbank High School. He honed his craft in acting classes and landed his first television role in 1971 on the popular show Love American Style. But it was his role on Happy Days that truly catapulted Williams to fame. As Potsy, he became known for his awkward charm and lovable disposition. Potsy was a close friend of Ralph Malph and Richie Cunningham, and the series wouldn't have been the same without him. He played the lovable goofball for all 11 seasons. After Happy Days, Williams turned his attention to directing and found success behind the camera on a number of popular TV shows, including Beverly Hills 90210, Lizzie McGuire, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch. He also dabbled in politics, unsuccessfully running for mayor of his hometown of Ojai, California in 2022. Off-screen, his personal life has been eventful as well. His first wife, Lori Mahaffey, was also a Happy Days co-star, and the two have a child together. Williams later married Jackie Gherkin, with whom he has 4 children, but they filed for divorce in 2019. In May 2023, at age 73, he found love once again. He tied the knot with Sharon Meharry, a real estate agent from Ojai. Henry Winkler. Sporting his trademark leather jacket, slicked back hair, and an unmistakable A, Henry Winkler, known as Fonzie, captured the hearts of a generation as the soft-hearted tough guy in Happy Days. Fast forward to nearly a half a century after the show's debut, Winkler has charmed a new fan base through his leading role in the series Barry. The HBO series has been a boon for Winkler, earning him an Emmy in 2018 for his performance as Gene Cousineau, a self-absorbed acting coach, guiding the assassin-turned-actor Barry Berkman, played by Bill Hader. Winkler continues to live for his main passion, entertaining, despite the struggles that followed his stint as Fonzie. It's a role that catapulted him to fame, spawned various spin-off shows, and even led to an action figure modeled after his character. But he experienced a nearly decade-long phase when he found it challenging to land roles due to typecasting. The period of uncertainty forced Winkler to reinvent himself. Driven by determination, he established his own production company in 1985. Their first production ended up being the highly successful series MacGyver, which ran for 7 seasons, securing 5 Emmy nominations. In a recent interview with ABC, Winkler discussed his career both during the filming of and after the conclusion of Happy Days. Reflecting on the tough times post-Happy Days, he asserts he wouldn't change anything. He cherishes the memories created during that period, from playing Fonzie to the camaraderie with the cast. For Winkler, what's truly cool is authenticity, a trait he admits took him a long time to discover. Ron Howard. Ron Howard first stepped into the limelight as a young actor, portraying Opie Taylor in The Andy Griffith Show. After an 8-year stint on the series, he didn't foresee a future in acting. But the 1970s brought an unexpected twist when he was cast in Happy Days. His return to the screen wasn't spurred by a renewed passion for acting, but rather by a desire to sidestep military conscription. When Happy Days came into the picture, Howard's interests had shifted from acting to a life less conspicuous. Having tasted success as a child star, he now yearned for a career behind the camera. His enrollment at USC Film School reflected his ambition to delve into filmmaking, but then the Vietnam War intervened. Attending the Sundance Film Festival in 2020, Howard shared how he found himself in a precarious position during the draft, with a worryingly low number and no medical reasons to excuse him from service. He feared being thrust into military duty, so he made a strategic choice to accept the starring role in Happy Days. Howard believed that being a part of a television series would offer him a shield of sorts backed by the network's legal resources. Fortunately, Howard's number never came up, and he went on to become one of Happy Days' most beloved characters. Following the conclusion of Happy Days, Howard has primarily invested his talents in directing cinematic masterpieces like Apollo 13, Cocoon, and A Beautiful Mind. In a recent conversation with Variety, he disclosed that his return to the limelight of acting would only be prompted if his daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, were at the helm as director. But Howard is keeping his expectations in check regarding a potential role by his daughter, having witnessed her impressive directing skills on hit series like The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett. He's well aware that Bryce is not a filmmaker who casts roles based on familial ties. Don Most. Don Most played the lovable Ralph for the first 7 seasons, and also made a couple guest appearances before the show's finale. In the years that followed, he continued to lend his voice to his character in the animated series, The Fonz and the Happy Days Gang. While Most's career may have begun with Happy Days, his professional journey has gone beyond sitcoms and into other facets of the entertainment industry, with his talent and creativity still thriving today. Most has maintained a consistent acting career since his Happy Days days, appearing on TV shows such as Glee and The Bold and the Beautiful, and in films like Lost Heart and Holiday in Santa Fe. He's additionally graced the stage with his presence in a touring production of the musical Grease. Like his co-star Ron Howard, Most has also tried his hand at directing, helming movies such as The Last Best Sunday, Moolah, and Harley's Hill. In 2017, Most released a swing album, Mostly Swinging, which drew inspiration from his mother's passion for the genre during his childhood. He's been quoted as saying he's thrilled his music has a broad appeal, reaching both young and old audiences. As a versatile artist, Most's artistic talent stretches far beyond just acting, and his passion for swing music continues to captivate fans worldwide. Scott Baio. From swooning hearts as Erin Moran's Chachi Arcola in Happy Days, to commanding leading roles in TV hits like Charles in Charge, Baby Talk, Diagnosis Murder, and See Dad Run, Scott Baio has had a prolific career in Hollywood. In 2007, the world got a glimpse into his personal life through the reality series Scott Baio is 45 and Single, which was aired at a time when he was single. Fast forward a year and he met the love of his life, Renee Sloan, with whom he tied the knot a few months later. Together, the couple have a daughter, Bailey. After 45 years of living in California, Baio has made up his mind to pack up and move out of the state. He took to Twitter to explain his reasons, citing the escalating crime and homelessness rates as the major factors influencing his decision. A vocal supporter of the Republican Party and a Trump devotee, Baio got into a brief exchange with a Twitter follower who made a snarky comment about his conservative views. In his retort, Baio mentioned the huge taxes he pays, which would certainly be missed by the state. In April, Baio listed his luxurious home in Woodland Hills for $3.8 million, a significant increase from the $1.85 million he paid in 2010. His move out of California comes hot on the heels of Mark Wahlberg's announcement that he was taking his family to Nevada in search of a better life.
Henry Winkler still remembers the sting. Not only is the end of a television series emotional for its fans, it can also be quite painful for the stars. A series finale can mean the end of a defining period in an actor's life. This was especially true for Henry Winkler, who played the Fonz. The sitcom helped launch his career, and in the process it immortalized him as a permanent fixture in American pop culture. In an interview with the Chicago Tribune, Winkler admitted he was in dire straits before he scored his role on Happy Days. So when the series gave his career a much-needed boost for more than a decade, seeing that door close before his eyes threw him for a loop. Once Happy Days was over, he had no idea what to do next. He had just spent the last 10 years putting every fiber of his being into his work. It doesn't help that Winkler describes his time before Happy Days as being in a position where he was barely scraping by. All he wanted was to be an actor, but he had no leads and very little reason to think he would somehow get lucky enough to land the role of his dreams. But he somehow got an audition and read for the part of Arthur Fonzarelli, and the rest is history. After Happy Days was no more, however, he was left temporarily feeling like he was right back where he started. But of course, Winkler managed to move on as an actor, although for a short spell in the 80s he was more focused on directing. He even became an executive producer on MacGyver for a while. The 90s saw him starring in yet another iconic role when he played the principal in the teen slasher flick Scream. In the 2000s, we were treated to Winkler once again when he played Barry Zuckerkorn in Arrested Development. Even though he'd feared the worst after his turn on Happy Days, Winkler ended up doing quite well for himself. These days, you can catch Winkler in his latest role in the black comedy crime drama series Barry. The finale we got wasn't the final episode that aired.
The intended series finale was a two-parter titled Passages. In it, Joni and Chachi got married, and Mr. Cunningham gave them a heartfelt toast. The final scene saw Mr. and Mrs. Cunningham in the center of a crowd gathered around in a circle. The camera then got a close-up shot aimed directly at Mr. Cunningham, and when he spoke, he did so directly to the audience, both to the audience at the wedding and those who were watching at home. Breaking the fourth wall, Mr. C then said, "Thank you all for being a part of our family. To Happy Days." The decision to address the audience directly was Gary Marshall's. The network execs were at first leery about his directorial decision, but Marshall insisted the way he wanted to conclude things was much more meaningful than simply fading to black. Now, typically when a show ends, especially when it's a show like Happy Days, which featured a conclusion that felt so final, that's the end. But in this case, a peculiar thing happened in 1984 when ABC decided to air leftover unaired episodes they had been tucking away for a rainy day long after the scripted Happy Days finale had aired. The 1984 Winter Olympic Games in Sarajevo had taken place in February of that year. When the games aired on ABC, they temporarily knocked Happy Days out of its usual time slot. Instead of pushing back the finale by months, ABC decided to air the Happy Days series finale as planned, while stashing the remaining episodes they had on hand that would have aired during the games. So Passages aired in May of 1984, thus ending the series. Then, a couple months later, at the end of June through late July, the bonus episodes aired. The first bonus episode to air was So How Was Your Weekend? For the following 3 weeks, 3 more episodes aired: Low Notes, School Dazed, and Good News, Bad News. For a while, fans thought that Good News, Bad News would be the last Happy Days episode to air. The episode involved Chachi getting invited to tour with the Beach Boys, only to receive some rather disappointing medical news that prevented it. After it aired, there was radio silence for a while, but then something incredible happened. Before we tell you about it, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. But wait, there's more. Months after Good News, Bad News aired, one final Happy Days episode randomly aired towards the end of September. The episode Fonzie's Spots found the Fonz being tortured by Potsy after trying to do Mr. Cunningham a favor by signing up as a Leopard Lodge recruit. While not all fans of the series recognized this episode as Happy Days' true finale, it was technically the last episode to ever air. If you ask Henry Winkler, the genuine series finale was Passages. There have been 2 Happy Days reunion specials. The first reunion aired on ABC in March of 1992. The 90-minute program, fittingly titled The Happy Days Reunion Special, was hosted by Winkler and featured various clips from the show, coupled with interviews from cast members reminiscing about their time on set. On February 3, 2005, a 2-hour special called Happy Days 30th Anniversary Reunion aired on ABC. Once again, the program featured various clips from some of the most memorable moments of the series, while bringing the surviving cast members back together for a reunion at the set of Arnold's Drive-In. There were a ton of spin-offs. Happy Days spawned 7 unique spin-off shows, including 2 animated ones: Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, Blanksy's Beauties, Out of the Blue, Joni Loves Chachi, Laverne and Shirley with the Fonz, and The Fonz and the Happy Days Gang. The most successful was Laverne and Shirley, which aired from 1976 to 83. That starred Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams and took place in the early to mid-60s in Milwaukee. Mork and Mindy, which starred Robin Williams in his breakthrough role, was all about an alien from Ork who landed in Boulder, Colorado in the 1970s to study humans. Joni Loves Chachi was a short series about Richie's younger sister Joni and the Fonz' cousin Chachi's relationship during their time working as musicians in Chicago. Out of the Blue was a spin-off series that aired in 1979 while Happy Days was still on the air. It starred Jimmy Brogan as the lead Random, an angel in training who's tasked to live with a suburban Chicago family. 1977's Blanksy's Beauties starred Nancy Walker as a former Vegas showgirl named Nancy Blanksy. A week before the show premiered, Blanksy appeared on Happy Days as a cousin of Howard Cunningham.
If you grew up in the 70s and 80s, you probably watched Happy Days. It was one of the most popular shows on TV, and the Fonz was one of the most recognizable characters. While the early years of the show were some of the best episodes of any sitcom, the show eventually started to stretch the realism. This peaked with the Jumping the Shark episode. In this video, we're going to look at how the show changed after Fonzie jumped the shark and how that moment created a pop culture meme. Be sure to watch until the end to find out how another show later used the jumping the shark moment to its fans' delight. Happy Days premiered in January 1974 on ABC. It was created by Gary Marshall as an homage to the innocence of 1950s Middle America. The early 70s were less innocent times, with many Americans soured by the Vietnam War. Happy Days provided a welcome escape from the news of the day. In its first season, the show mostly revolved around the Cunningham family: Howard, Marion, Chuck, Richie, and Joni. Arthur Fonzarelli, better known as Fonzie or just the Fonz, played a relatively small part in the show. Played by Henry Winkler, the Fonz quickly became a fan favorite. By the second season, Chuck was written out of the show, and Fonzie got a much bigger role as a mentor and friend to Richie Cunningham. While he was portrayed as a menacing biker and former gang member in the first season, over the next couple of years the rough edges were worn down, and Fonzie became almost a modern-day superhero, with his face on kids' lunchboxes across the country. The three-part Hollywood season premiere opened the fifth season, part of a stunt to increase ratings by having the cast visit California. At this point, the writers felt like there was nothing Fonzie couldn't do, including leaping over a caged tiger shark in response to a dare from a local beach bum called the California Kid. Winkler came up with the idea for the scene as he was an avid water skier. His father apparently insisted he tell the producers he could water ski. When Winkler finally gave in to his father and told the producers, they wrote the scene of him jumping over the shark contained in a netted area near the beach. This wasn't completely out of character for the Fonz. He had jumped his motorcycle over a line of 14 garbage cans in an earlier episode, so the jump over the shark seemed like a reasonable follow-up. Winkler later told Oprah he did all the water skiing himself except for the jump. The show's producers wouldn't let him do the jump, but his water skiing abilities stopped a bit short of that anyway. By the start of its fifth season, Happy Days was a smash hit, and 30 million viewers watched Fonzie leap over the shark. With over 40 years of perspective since the show aired, many people believe that was the beginning of the end for the series. But the Jumping the Shark episode turned out to be only halfway through its run. It continued for another 6 seasons. The phrase, "jump the shark," didn't hold any special meaning until 1987, when University of Michigan college student Sean Connolly coined the phrase to describe a particularly outlandish turn of events. His circle of friends used the expression for years, but it didn't make its way into the public's vernacular until 1997, when Connolly's college roommate John Hine started the website jumptheshark.com. The site chronicled the moments when popular TV shows took a sudden and surprising drop in quality. The infamous Happy Days episode was written by Fred Fox Jr. He didn't agree with the idea that it was the turning point for the show's quality. He was so opposed to it, he wrote an op-ed for the LA Times objecting to the phrase. He said when he first heard the phrase and what it meant, he was incredulous. He started thinking about the thousands of TV shows that have aired since TV began. His thought was that out of all those shows, why was this Happy Day episode where Fonzie jumped the shark the one that got singled out? Fox may be right. The Fonz jumping the shark wasn't even the strangest storyline on Happy Days that season. Later in the year, the show introduced Robin Williams as Mork from Ork, an alien who landed in Milwaukee, where Happy Days took place. That character was a hit, and Williams went on to star on his own show, Mork and Mindy. You'd think having an alien land in the middle of an otherwise normal sitcom about teens growing up in the 50s would be the real shark-jumping moment, but meeting the alien doesn't have the same ring. While some of the cast and crew of Happy Days might not like it, the phrase "jump the shark" has become shorthand for more than just TV shows. Some people feel like the James Bond series of movies have jumped the shark. A local restaurant can jump the shark when they hire a new cook or add some strange items to their menu. A relationship can jump the shark when one of the partners does something beyond forgivable. But jumping the shark is still used to describe the moment when a popular TV show loses its way so badly that there's no going back. Let's look at a few other shows that have jumped the shark. Happy Days. The second time Happy Days jumped the shark is when Richie Cunningham and Ralph Malph left the show. At the beginning of Season 8, in the episode No Tell Motel, Ron Howard and Donnie Most left the show. Both actors had other projects in mind and were tired of playing their parts on the show. The most important relationship on the show was the one between Richie and the Fonz. So with half of that team gone, the show really started to decline.
I'll handle these clowns.
I Dream of Jeannie. The stars of I Dream of Jeannie, Barbara Eden and Larry Hagman, were two of the hottest stars on TV at the time. Male viewers drooled over Eden's Jeannie, and women swooned over Hagman's Major Nelson. But because of the morals of the time, the two never had any kind of relationship since they lived in the same home. In season 5, the show's producers decided it was time the two characters got married. Both Eden and Hagman argued that the sexual tension that was the main appeal of the show would disappear, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. The two were married in a 2-part episode in 1969 called Guess Who's Going to Be a Bride, and the show's decline began. Instead of her pink outfit, Jeannie started wearing civilian clothes more often and started addressing Nelson as Anthony instead of Master. After the show jumped the shark with the wedding episode, which ironically Eden says was her favorite, the ratings started to tumble. The Flintstones. Elvis Presley was rock and roll's #1 rebel when he started in 1956. He scared the parents of the millions of teens who worshipped him. But after he was drafted in 1958 and spent time in the U.S. Army, he became much more tame and never quite recovered his aura of danger. Fred Flintstone had the same problem. In the early seasons of the Flintstones, he was a loudmouth bore who was crude and out of control, much to the audience's delight. Looking at the show now, when we can watch the seasons back to back, you can see him get more tame and more watered down each season. After the 1963 episode when Pebbles Flintstone was born, the Flintstones jumped the shark, and his decline was sealed. Seinfeld. Many people consider Seinfeld to be the best sitcom in history, and it's unique in the list of shows that jumped the shark in the fact it didn't continue running after it happened. Seinfeld crossed that divide in its final episode. After 172 episodes, the finale brought all the show's classic characters back, including the Soup Nazi, Babu, the Low Talker, the Bubble Boy, and Putty. Anticipation for the show was so high, it might never have been able to live up to it. But the last episode was particularly unbalanced and awkward, and worst of all, not that funny. Even though many of the Happy Days cast and crew members take issue with the term jumping the shark, they're not all against it. Henry Winkler, the Fonz himself, is good-natured about it all. He guest starred on the recent hit Arrested Development. In an episode during the second season, the characters were speaking at a marina. At one point, Winkler's character, Barry Zuckerkorn, jumps over a dead shark lying on the dock, paying tongue-in-cheek homage to the phrase.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days.
Very small detail.
Well, tell me quick.
You got no reputation for toughness. Once in your life, you had to have hit somebody.
That's not a good detail to leave out, Fonz.
Now listen, you just give me the word, I'll bail you out of this one.
Heart could leave my body and just soar, it would have.
But now he and his grandkids have to keep their distance. They visit with him from the driveway.
Not being able to touch them.
Now I'm ready. Hiya, show! Building enough of a bubble that we could, begin to actually get together safely. And so, yeah, we decided to have a little pizza and hang out on Sunday. It was nice.
Well, it looked like it was.
I drove him out. I probably said, sit on it, Howard, once. Lisa, after Fonzie, run out and up the stairs and tell him he'd better take it on the lam. Oh, It was for work, Arthur. My goodness, I don't know, really. I don't need
Tiffany Wolf.
But do you know my friend Tiffany Wolf up in San Francisco?
No. Who is
You
that?
don't. All right.
They get curious, then they get crazy, and then you got them.
Okay, a couple of notes and then the big note in a secret meeting.
Right.
Thanks, Fonz. You're a doll.
Shortcake, you should have no trouble. Now get out of here.
Okay, bye, Fonz.
A few weeks go by, and one night, my husband and I went to the market and came home. We start hearing voices and footsteps.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Shy little fellow.
my cousin, the one and only Fonz,
That's me.
got discovered by a talent scout at Arnold's, and he's going to Hollywood.
That's great. Kids, imagine.
Work hard and want to succeed and want a better life for their families. It's unfair to the Democrats. So this is what they're going to do. So when you put low income housing into nice neighborhoods, what do you think happens?
See you at the party. I don't have to bring my rubber nose. Mine's still swollen. I still got it.
Now look, you're gonna have to grow up. Just talk to your father, okay?
You want something to drink? You want a beer or wine cooler? Or?
You got any hard lemonade?
No.
Oh, beer.
Okay.
Pump up, pump, 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 pump up, pump, 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 pump up, pump, 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 pumps your blood. The right atrium's where the process begins, where the CO2 blood enters the heart, through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle.
But more importantly, especially since we're all at home now, you're going to love it. You're going to
Yeah.
laugh, you're going to cry, and it's just going to be a good time for you.
Yeah, it's never been seen. And it's...
Arthur, he's had too much. You've got to disqualify him.
No, I'm not going to do that, Marion, but I'll talk to Joni. It's better for her if she makes the decision. Now, don't worry about it. She's a sweet and sympathetic girl.
What do you mean you want to quit? You can't.
Hi, Tom Bosley here. I didn't have my hand up on that last one, so I really should pay attention to the rest of this. I bet you know someone who's had a fire at home or was injured.
Chachi, she's too old for you.
Al, do you know what she does for me?
Rosa? From my parish? What?
She puts chocolate, hot fudge.
Hello, sunshine, goodbye, rain. She's wearing my school ring on the chain. She's my steady, I'm her man.